This video is sponsored by sellcashier.com. They compare iPhone prices on the internet and give you their instant quote and the most cash for your iPhone. Hey guys, this is Ed with Techvariums. I have a really interesting lineup for you over here today. These are the iPhones from a variety of generations, starting with the 5S here. They all belong to a lineup of iPhones that were considered to be gold in some fashion. They were not always called gold, but they belong to the same category of colors in the multi-year lineup of iPhones. Anyways, this is the 5S, and the 5S is the most simple and the smallest. Much later, the SE came out that looked exactly identical, but certainly offered newer features such as haptic feedback on the button here, which this is, even though it's a fingerprint scanner, this is really a button that you could hear a click when you use it. Not a big fan. This device is very small to my liking. Nowadays, I did have, obviously as everyone else in the past, that have smaller phones, but this is too small to my liking. A fellow coworker of mine still actually has one and looking to get rid of it to get it replaced by an iPhone 10. So this was a great little phone for the time being. If you have something as old as this, your battery is probably close to dying, or at least not holding charges as well as it did in the beginning. If you're looking to trade this in at the Apple Store, it's not likely that you're going to get a lot money back for it, so you're not looking at a hefty discount towards getting one of the newer ones. The next in the lineup is the iPhone 6. iPhone 6 came out a year after the 5S. The major difference here is definitely the size, the better screen, the better camera, and a few other features. Still has a button, the physical button with no haptic feedback, and you can hear a very audible click of the button when you use it. Definitely a better camera, and it actually stands out from the flat rear surface of the phone here. Has the usual silence switch on the side here. A very well made device, with the only exception that, as you may remember, they were called bendable phones just because the frame is so soft that it's very, very easy to bend it. If you put it in the back pocket, or sometimes even if you drop it from high enough of a height, with the exception that you would probably break the screen, as if this doesn't have the screen protector, or it actually doesn't carry, I don't have a case on it either. So iPhone 6 was pretty interesting just because it was certainly an upgrade in terms of size and the readability of the screen. What came out a year later was the 6S that I don't have here, but what I have here is the 7. Now the 7 was a major upgrade to the camera, and the quality of the pictures and the videos, things like the slow-mo, were spectacular on this phone. The size is exactly identical, with the exception of, if you look at the camera module is actually larger here, which speaks to the higher quality images. So very similar design. The antenna looks a little bit different, at the very least the external portion of it. Those are the white lines you see on here. So, and that was a 7. Again, it has a haptic feedback on the button, which is also a fingerprint scanner. So there's not a click, there's just a little noise from the haptic feedback that's being generated by the motor installed inside the phone. 7 has one camera, 7 Plus had 2 cameras. The following year, the 8 and the 8 Plus came out, and this is the 8 Plus, which is the larger brother, the continuation from the 7 Plus and also the 6 Plus and the S lineup of iPhones. This was another major upgrade in terms of picture quality, and just wait until we get to talking about the 10S and the 10. The color was slightly different, still considered to be gold, however it's got some glass in the back. And the glass in the back means that you could easily break this phone, and if you break this, it's going to be extremely expensive because now you're dropping a multi-$100 device and you're now breaking the screen and the glass in the back, and I've seen quite a few of those. Not a pleasant situation to deal with, but you get what you pay for, and you're getting spectacular images, you're getting spectacular videos and slow-mos, and emojis came out on these, but once you play with those for a while, they get kind of old. And I pretty much used for at least a fraction of my life one of these iPhones. They are, in my opinion, pretty much all the same in terms of how they operate, because their operating systems match. As you can see, even the home screen image is absolutely the same. Now, what's interesting is that Apple claimed with the 6S and the 6S Plus and going up in the model lineup by Apple is that their frames have become a little bit sturdier, so they were more resistant to the bending of the frame. Now this phone is certainly heavier in terms of the weight alone but it just sits in the hand very, very well. I really like heavier handsets. I don't know if it comes from the old Nokia times that those were unbreakable, but these phones are very, very solid, except when you drop them. So of course, for something like this, a case and a screen protector is highly recommended, which you can't really see on this phone right here. This phone was spectacular, but this home screen image is very, very deceiving, because if I open the calendar, there's a huge recess in the screen, and that bothered quite a few users. Apple has yet to do anything about it, with the exception of changing the home screen picture and now just being honest about it, because now everybody knows there is a bezel. There's been a lot of speculation and rumors whether the bezel was going to go away this year, because there are Chinese manufacturers that actually got rid of that, and we haven't seen that. If you look at the Pixel lineup, the leaked rumored pictures of Pixel 4 XL that will be coming out pretty soon does not actually have that anymore. They took those little areas at the top of the screen away entirely to have several modules, several sensors in that area. So they're basically using that space for that. Still a pretty huge screen. So with these two, these phones are just a year apart. So this is the XS and this is the 11 Pro. Now, very close in matching of the color, gold and gold, with the exception of having glass in the back here. You have matte glass here, and I like this a lot better because it's more fingerprint resistant. We all know that shiny phones will collect fingerprints like dust, and nobody likes that. You would hopefully have a case on it simply because you want to protect your investment, even though it depreciates very quickly in price over years. But my choice of all these would certainly fall on a 10 that came out a year prior to this. It was a spectacular phone for the money. Of course, it was expensive initially. If you can ever lay your hands on the 10 right now, or any time that you're considering to get a used phone from a secondary market, then I would certainly suggest that you get an iPhone 10, because it was a spectacular and revolutionary device in terms of the interface and the gestures, but also the camera module. It was also dual camera. It was creating spectacular images and fantastic videos. So you couldn't get a better phone, which I'm still really a big fan of. But the XS nowadays is dropping price on the secondary market as well. So you might consider getting one if you haven't gotten a 10. So a fraction of a difference in cost will probably get you one of these compared to a 10. Spectacular performance, a great phone, and certainly lays very well in your hands, pretty heavy. And finally this year, this creature came out, and this creature is the iPhone 11 Pro. The iPhone 11 Pro came out with a younger and an older brother. I don't have them in this video specifically because of the difference in colors. This is the 11, which is the younger brother, and this is the 11 Pro Max, which is the older brother, just because it's larger. But the idea is the same, with the exception of the 11 having 2 camera modules and 3 camera modules on the 11 Pro Max and the 11 Pro, which is this right here. 11 Pro feels absolutely no different when you're holding it in your hand, with the exception of the matte glass in the back. And when you turn it and you look at the matte glass in the back, you recognize this horrible looking 3 camera modules. I'm not a big fan of the design and how they decided to map this out. It's not covered by anything. If you have seen, again, leaked Google Phone 4 pictures, they certainly look more simple, and they're actually hidden behind the glass. If what's been rumored is really correct, and hopefully that'll come out, this is going to be a spectacular phone in terms of design. However, we know, and Apple has proven itself over years, that it provides you with the best hardware and the best operability of the operating system, how fluid it is. This has been there for years. Probably if you have a lot of apps installed on your 6 that's older, yeah, it might be lagging a little bit. You will not see this on these newer ones. You won't see it on the 7, you won't see it on the 8, you won't see it on the XS, and you definitely won't see it on the 10. Of course, there's a 10R. 10R is a great phone that was released last year. I would caution against getting one of those, just simply because the 10R has a screen that doesn't have the highest resolution, so it looks dimmer. The image doesn't look as clear. Now, what these came out with this year is the dark theme. It allows you to save your eyes and save your battery in the long run and throughout the day. So when you open your clock, you open the native apps, they will have the dark background. Even in the most basic apps such as the phone, the background is going to be black. I use it on the Pixel 3. That is my daily driver, and I've had the black theme for quite some time. and they even improved it more recently with the Android 10 release. It's absolutely amazing. It saves you a lot of battery, and it's so much easier on your eyes, especially if you're writing a lot of emails, and especially if you're texting a lot, then that's definitely a really great solution to save your battery. The talk here is not about the Android, it certainly is about the iPhones and how they progress through time. But look at this lineup, look at the size differences. Of course, the Plus is definitely the largest of the 6 here. It's the 8 Plus here. But look how the 6 and then the 6S in between the 6 and the 7 here, those phones were basically identical in size. The 7 Plus, that's not here, but the 8 Plus looks almost exactly identical, with the exception of some glass in the back. And of course, then you had the 10 that was released, and now the 10S from last year, and you also have the 11 Pro this year. These haven't changed. So you're always, through time, you're looking at least a couple of generations or possibly more of the phones in the same size categories. We're not just talking about color here, we're definitely talking about the size. The weight of the devices changes significantly between different generations just because of Apple implementing things like the glass back or different hardware, or hardware that there's just more of in the device. So again, 3 camera modules, you don't think that it adds a lot to the weight of the device, but think about it in the context of all the other sensors and everything else, and especially the battery capacity. So the more capacity you got in the phone, the heavier it's going to be. So think about the 8 Plus being the heaviest. Now here's just a thought. If you were to have an iPhone 7, what would you potentially consider replacing it with if you wanted to get a phone that's a used one, and you found a reliable deal on the secondary market, and that being eBay or possibly even Craigslist, although you've definitely and hopefully watched some of my videos where I really caution end users against purchasing fake iPhones on the secondary market. But think in the context of what you would actually reasonably want to replace it with. If you have a 7 on hands right now and this is your daily driver, there's no reason for you to upgrade it to an 8 or even an 8, well, Plus would be a bigger version, but if you're upgrading from a 7, jump the generation and go straight to a 10 if you can find one, because you're gonna get rid of the button that I was, by the way, never a fan of. I don't like the fact that there's even haptic feedback when you're using the button. So it's just was never my thing. But if you have a chance to get rid of the 7, get a 10, you should certainly go for it. Now, what you should consider is after an 8, you might actually get a 10S. You should, under no circumstance, get this. So this is over $1,000. This device is actually 64 gigabytes, so with tax it comes out to be a little bit more than $1,000. But in my opinion, this is, first of all, it's mobile technology. It's a smartphone. It's something that you make phone calls with, you text your friends, you take pictures, but you don't need all this. Now, just as a thought, if you have a 10S on hands right now and you've been using it over the last year since it was released, or maybe you bought it at a split year time point, would you get rid of it? Should you get rid of it? I don't think you should. This is an amazing phone. It's got 2 cameras that are more than sufficient to take amazing snapshots and make great videos. It's just not worth your money to pay this much money for a phone that has all this in the back and costs over $1,000, because you just paid that last year. Alright guys, these are just my 5 cents about the different generations of iPhones. I really think they're great devices. They work. Those of you that have started at the 5S and you progress through time through all of these, my kudos to you. It's a hell of an investment in terms of money, but they do one thing compared to many other manufacturers. These phones do work, and they work through many years, like many Apple products. With this, I want to thank you for watching. As always, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and I will see you in my next video very soon. I wanted to tell you about sellcashier.com. So you just got your new iPhone. What will you do with your old one? You may be thinking of selling it on eBay, Craigslist, and so on, and it is definitely a hassle. Now you don't have to do that. Now you can sell it through sellcashier.com. They compare the actual prices of iPhones and give you the best price for your iPhone that you are trying to sell. And the good thing is that you are guaranteed the best rate. You also get a free shipping label. Thank you for watching, and please check out sellcashier.com.